as we're talking about taking a wee break, I do want to unpackage that for our audience, Lauren. For you, whatever you want to call it, a kind of a longer hiatus from putting out songs and touring nonstop, kind of a deal. We'll call that the hiatus. Are you writing, resting, or playing during kind of a typical longer hiatus like you just had?
You are on speakerphone, and my friend is sitting next to me, my best friend. We work together, travel together, grew up together. And she just, all she did was put up the number 3. Like, play that. You don't even have to ask. And I immediately was going to say all 3. It's a little bit of everything. And she's like, 3. It's 3. I find rest in playing, so there's something there for you. But what I would say I do is I really soak up the time that is lost, if you will. And this is like, talk about the sofa moment, put me on the couch with a counselor.
Yeah.
I am constantly chasing after lost time. And it's not necessarily a good thing, but when I do get these moments of rest, these hiatus moments, I really just pour into time with friends and family. I do the absolute most I can. I maximize every ounce with them so that I can get the fix and get the fill. There's just there's nothing like it.
This is the moment, Lauren, where I ask you to repeat the same things you say to all the other radio stations you talk to, because we just want to hear the heart behind Thank God I Do, where it came from, all of that.
The long form version is I went through the pandemic, as we all did, and it was kind of this strange season of grief and disappointment and really learning that my trust was not in the right places. I put a lot of trust in people. I put a lot of trust in things and success in my career, in the connection that I had with people every day. I could go on and on and on and on. In the way our world is set up, the systems, our country, blah, blah, blah. And the further along in the pandemic, I really realized, wow, I'm becoming riddled with anxiety. I'm starting to discover panic for the first time. It was like a straight year of no sleep. I was waking up just plagued with fear. And it kind of was shocking to me to see, like, in some ways how off my meter was as far as this thing we call faith, as far as this thing we called a Christian walk. Like, I was way off at thinking I'm somewhere that I truly wasn't. And it wasn't until this whole implosion of society happened that I really found myself kind of in the crux of redefining my faith and redefining where my trust was placed. And so that being said, it was this period where the Lord just started bringing friends and family and himself into the mix in ways that really revealed the attributes of God, his kindness to be still and patient when I'm crying on an airplane and I don't understand why. Like, why am I what is this thing? My heart is racing faster than I know. Am I having a heart attack? Literally, there was a moment where they brought the defibrillator out because they thought I was about to have a heart attack on this flight because of how uncontrollable my body was. And I had friends that were around me that were patient and kind. And it showed, there was just all of these moments that showed me that God was so in my world and so for me, even though it felt like he was far away in those moments. He brought these people around to really reveal his nature and his character. And so that's what Thank God I Do is all about. It's about how to reposition that trust again and remind yourself of who he actually is.
If you are not the top-selling female vocalist of all time, you are on a pace.
Oh, okay.
Like when Tiger Woods was winning everything, it's like, oh gosh, in 10 years, it'll be ridiculous. Like, just he's on pace to, well, that all went awry. But do you privately experience insecurities when female artists start crushing it and gaining traction? Like when they experience success at the top level and you're like, it's a place you've been sitting now for a little while, but like a Katie Nicole has 2 straight smashes and all of a sudden, do you privately go, "Oh gosh, I got to kick it into high gear," or "I wish I could be more like, them"?
That's such a great question, and I love that you asked me this. Two things happen because this is the stuff that nobody ever really talks about, and it's true. It's like, oh yeah, I'm more human than anybody would ever want to give me credit for. So the reality is two things happen. One, I'm so clueless, Jayar. I have no idea what is happening in the scheme of like other people's success, or like I'll find out random facts through the grapevine and it's like, oh cool, I barely know my own success. So hearing you just say like you're on this trajectory in 10 years, can't wait to see like Tiger Woods status, I'm over here like, really? I'm a little bit clueless of the scale and scope of some of this stuff. I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and they were talking about how they always worked for the corporate world. And in working for the corporate world, they would put so much energy and effort into doing really important things for their company that brought about a lot of return. But they never necessarily knew the return. They just knew that their job was needed for this return to take place. They didn't necessarily ever see what actually took place. Right. So there's a piece of me, and they said what they needed was they switched careers and needed to find this moment where they were able to see the return of what they did. That's kind of how numbers and figures feel around like stats and charts and things like that. I feel like, oh, it's a little bit elusive. I don't really have a scope or a scale of knowing what it all really means. So I say that's point number one, is I'm a little bit clueless sometimes. And then point number two is when I do find out, say Katie Nicole, which I've met her and she's precious. So I think about it in two different lights. I think about it from the business front. In business, oh shoot, I need to kick it into high gear. Like, what does second place feel like? Okay, I'm okay internally with second place as long as I know that I was still working hard. Yeah. It's more of like did I work hard and still get second place? Great. If that's where the Lord wants me, if he wants me in second place, okay, cool. But I do go through the wrestle of like, oh shoot, I better kick it into high gear. I am a perfectionist. I do love putting the most effort behind what we do. Like I find joy in that. So that being said, there is a moment, and I have to eliminate pride and say, okay, God, maybe this is a moment for someone else to shine. And that brings me to point number two. When I think about the fact that God is in control of all of this stuff at the end of the day, and that is the reality. We can work as hard as we want. There's a lot of people working way harder than me and not getting nearly the success that I'm having. And there's a lot of people that work way less than me and are more successful. You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like in Christian culture, there's this thing of like, God's favor is shining on, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, we can't really quantify his favor. His favor is because of him and who he is. And we get to partner in the endeavors with him the best that we can. But he's gonna add favor. You can be in God's favor and have no outward success, if you will. Yeah. But all the internal gain, all the internal confidence and trust and security, and those are the things that are really pure and things that are really good. So, okay, I took the long way around it, but to go to point number two of like when I find myself outside of pride and when I just sit in the fact of like, who is Katie Nicole? Let me think about the individual as a whole. If I think about who she is, why would I not want to celebrate? Why would I not want to say, you go get them, girl. Go get them, girl. And if you need any help along the way, give me a call. I'm here for you. Yeah. Like I have found myself in this position of loving to champion these new people that come along. Like Ann Wilson is another one. Like the other day I had a call with her for like 2 hours. I probably talked her head off. But I was so excited and delighted to say, hey, if my time of being on top is coming to an end or whatever, you better believe I'm going to put all of my effort into making sure that whoever the next person is that's coming up has a fortress around them where they feel like they're not doing this alone. And I have way more joy in that, and I feel way more purpose in that than just like fighting to beat down the door of becoming number one. I hope that makes sense. Like, that's like the double-sided answer of like, yeah, I have to swallow pride in moments, but I also can find joy in other placements, if that makes sense.